Welcome to the Building to Scale podcast, where we bring real entrepreneur stories that showcase the challenges and successes in building and scaling an entrepreneurial business. Our host, Jeff Chastain, is a business transformation coach with Admentis, where he coaches business leaders and their teams with a proven set of principles and tools, helping them gain clarity in and get more of what they want from their business. Make sure to stick around until the end of the show, and we will reveal how you can become our next guest.
Welcome, everybody. Jeff Chastain here again with the Building to Scale podcast, where I just get the opportunity really to speak with different entrepreneurs. This will be actually a third venture we've had into the alcohol industry recently. So that's tending to be a changing trend or a challenging trend this year with all the lockdowns and everything. But today's guest with me here is Aimy Steadman with Future Proof down out of Austin, Texas. So Aimy, first off, welcome and thank you for taking a bit out of your day today to come talk with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me and letting me share the story of Future Proof and BeatBox as well.
You're welcome. And thank you so tell us a little bit more about Future Proof and kind of where this all got started. We were talking a little bit ahead of time, and this is definitely I find it a really interesting story, that kind of how you jumped onto the scene here with this.
Yeah. So I met my business partners for Future Proof, originally BeatBox Beverages, in the business school at UT Austin. So McCombs Business School in Entrepreneurship Society, so Entrepreneurs Club. And we had just been talking at happy hour, of course, about, how everything that we had seen in terms of box wine out there was really marketed to like retired people. And we had seen box wine at, river floats and tailgates and parties and all over the place, as grad students or, undergrad students even. So we, kind of saw that opportunity, and it was 2011. The year prior was when Four Loko really hit the market in a big way. And, we had saw things like Mike's Hard Lemonade be really popular. And so we wanted to create something that would be loved by millennials. And for us, we were actually the group of friends in grad school that were always trying to find out which music festival was happening that weekend, where we could go. I was actually a radio DJ on the student radio station and had my own sort of electronic music radio show at the time. So we wanted to create the branding around BeatBox to be about music, because that was the center of our social lives. And so that was what we wanted to create as well for the product. So that was the very early thesis of it. We did, every business plan competition, every group project and MBA school that you could about this idea. And then eventually, created our first production run of the product and launched it during South by Southwest, just a couple months before we graduated in March 2013, and then continued to work on it, nights and weekends personally until I was able to go full time in 2014 after we were on Shark Tank. So
oh, wow. Yeah.
Those were the early days.
It's early days, but still not that far back. So that's still interesting that you've gotten that far. So I'm curious more from your personal background. Was it always kind of the entrepreneurial kind of background that you were looking to get into, or did this just come out and like I said, during the master's degree?
Yeah, no, I actually had already started many businesses until then. My parents were entrepreneurs. We actually moved here from the Middle East when I was 10 years old to Houston. And so I had watched them, start and grow their business here. And, they had never been to college before. So for me to go get my MBA in entrepreneurship at UT and then go be on Shark Tank, that was like winning the Super Bowl, for a football dad or something like that. So they're extremely proud. And, I was always watching them as a kid. I think when you see something, I think, both my business partners had parents that were entrepreneurs as well. So it didn't seem as crazy to us to start our own business than I think maybe some other of our peers at that time, at 20.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that makes sense. And it definitely helps to kind of come up with that upbringing for sure. Cause it's a different mindset for sure. Put it that way.
For sure. Yeah. I had already started an online marketing agency. I was making websites. I had a t-shirt company in high school. We just, I think when you're that kind of person, it just kind of happens. Just like when you're a musician, you have to play music. So it just kind of happens naturally.
Interesting. So I'm curious, because I've heard this go both ways. And granted, you were all the way into the master's program for your business side, but what kind of impact has the schooling, here's the academic side of business degree equated now to actually running a real business kind of in the real life of the trenches here? How have those, has that been obvious lessons learned picked up, or has it been, hey, we're still having to learn a lot of things on our own just because that was very academic at the time?
Yeah, well, you can teach yourself anything online these days, and there's so many amazing, ways to learn things and discover from other people, whether it's on a podcast or something like this or other ways. But the main thing for business school for me was that community and network. I hadn't met other people that had big visions to start companies, just every day in my life, and if I did, it wouldn't happen to be the same way. So to have an entrepreneurship club where there were a ton of other really educated and really intelligent people that were really passionate about entrepreneurship, that was like a dream come true to me, to be able to be in that environment. And then, the whole platform of business plan competitions and, working with the entrepreneurship professors there and everything else. I mean, that it really did impact me a lot. And so that's why I chose to go to business school. I know it's not an option for everybody, but it was transformational for me. And, that's a big reason about why I was inspired to, start Naturally Austin, which is a nonprofit that serves entrepreneurs in my industry, as well as, serve on the board of other entrepreneur organizations, because those kinds of nonprofits and communities, I think, can provide that same kind of transformational access to people the same way that business school did for me.
Yeah, no, it's the community aspect is always a big one. I look at it as to whether you're in school or whether beyond now kind of a thing there, because really that's one of the downsides to me of the entrepreneurial side is that you're in a lot of ways, granted you have a few business partners, but you're almost in it alone at that point. It's like, okay, where do you go for questions? Where do you go for stuff that, okay, we haven't done this before. We hadn't tried to hire employees. We hadn't tried to build out systems. How do we do this kind of thing? And finding those resources can be challenging, if nothing else, just because today there's almost so much information out there. It's like, okay, where do you go? Where do you start piecing it together? So having that kind of a collaborative base, a mentor base kind of a thing, I can see being a big help right there.
Yeah, there's all kinds of accelerators that can help pair people with mentors and things like that too. The three kind of groups that I work with in Austin are EO, which is a global group. I also work with Naturally Austin, which is for natural products industry, CPG, retail products, that kind of thing. And then Bean Founders, which is for female founders. And so, we just try to provide those kind of same resources. I know that's what kind of just serving not just Austin, but more generally as well. So hopefully there'll be a lot more of these resources available for different industries and things like that, so that there is path to entrepreneurship for folks, because it's yeah.
So I'm curious, kind of over your journey for the last 7-ish years, 8-ish years, kind of a thing there, if I can do some math, obviously from, you said 4 or 5 founders together now to 25 kind of employees. What's that shift look like for you personally, just from, again, being real small, being on your own, to now handling a team, handling people around you?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. And like, that's honestly the craziest, most surreal part, is the level of talent and the awesome players that we have on the team now, executing something that for us was just a dream, that we had at a happy hour one time. So it's really crazy to think about, having these people that are top of the industry leaders, coming in to take BeatBox to the next level is like, just, I'm so grateful. And that's, a big part of all the investors that have come in through our crowdfunding campaign, things like that have empowered us to do that. So super grateful for those people that have empowered us as well. So
what was kind of the catalyst of saying, okay, we've got to start hiring, start growing? And then what did that look like at that point to say, okay, this has got to be more than just the 4 or 5 of us here?
It actually was pushed on us by a lot of our investors, because most of our investors are actually entrepreneurs as well, like Mark Cuban, for example. And the other investors on our board are entrepreneurs themselves. And so they kind of saw that we were getting to a point where we were, only growing the business to a certain point. We needed to hire to get to the next level. It's actually pretty funnily well documented on our episode of Beyond the Tank with Mark Cuban. It was actually when he kind of had the big meeting with us, and we went forward and started hiring our sales team for the first time. And, at first we had a very lean startup approach to just hiring, people that were fans of the product that, would work with us and get us to the next level, but weren't necessarily like top of the industry folks. And that's what we needed to do to get to the next level at the time and what we could afford. But, now that we've raised some more funds and we can bring in these people, it's been really transformational. And so my role has changed a lot from, literally doing everything from making the product to driving it to selling it myself in stores to running the events and, everything that we've done is now moved where I can really geek out about the strategy of the business and the processes. And so I just become a real process nerd. I'm the chief operating officer in my company. And so we use a system called EOS, Entrepreneurs Operating System. And so I've gotten really into that and working with my team to try and make everybody positioned so that we can scale and grow as fast as possible. And just trying to get these awesome, talented people to, be streamlined so that we can grow as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Also, I'm curious, since you mentioned it, what was kind of I know EO does a lot with EOS at that point. Was that kind of the entry point for EOS, or where did you get EOS from, and what was kind of the catalyst for saying, hey, we need something here?
Yeah, absolutely learned about it through EO. Some of my foreign mates were EOS companies and really loved it. And EOS, for those that don't know about it, it's really just a distillation of a lot of best practices like the Rockefeller habits and other things. So, it's just a system. It's been proven. It's not, every company I think has little tweaks on it, but if you don't have a system, it's really transformational once you get on one. And, we also use Asana. We use, different resources like that to help us keep organized because we're a fully remote team. As a beverage company, we have a distributed sales team that covers a big geography. And so we have to be set up from a company perspective to, manage everything remote. So those things have been really helpful for us as well. And definitely talking to my peers at EO about that all the time.
Yeah, I always kind of joke with people. It's like everybody's got a system. You have a way of running your business. It may not be well documented or well thought out, but you've got a system or approach. And something like EOS or, like you said, Rockefeller habits, it helps solidify things. And really, to me, it helps bring that clarity there to where you can understand what's going on in the business. You can see what's going on in the business.
And if you have a system that you're using like that has tools to train your team and things like that too, it just makes it easier for you to train people and get them going quickly and things like that. So that's another part of it that we've loved as well.
Yeah, it's probably helped quite a bit with you being able to step up to that higher strategic role, is that you're not having to be down in the trenches quite so much anymore.
Yeah. So we use the leadership, level 10 agendas for the meeting. So, we have a process for everybody in the company to touch base and, tackle issues and things like that come up. And so, it's definitely helped us, cut down unnecessary meetings, because we're all just working so hard all the time as a fast growing startup, right? So things like that help us just be more efficient and have everything on Asana live. We can all sync kind of asynchronously outside of the meetings as well. That's just been really, really awesome.
So I'm curious, going back, we're obviously doing this now in 2021, a year and a half beyond this pandemic, hopefully. What kind of impact did having those systems and that structure in place have on the company when you obviously hit the pandemic, hit Texas, and everything shut down pretty much a year ago, spring break? So right at your peak season there.
Yeah, well, we definitely had an advantage, I think, when a lot of my other friends, companies and things like that were just trying to find systems that they could use to do things remotely, where we didn't skip a beat operationally in terms of that. But, obviously in the beverage industry, it was very scary when everything got shut down. We didn't know quite how it would be impacted. So our team, also a big impact is, as a startup, would be our ability to fundraise, right? So in an uncertain economy, if you don't know that you can fundraise for a year or 2 years, potentially, depending on what the economy looks like, that would really affect things too. And so approaching the spring, we were very cautious about our forecast for the year and some of our plans. Of course, all of our marketing budget got slashed because every music festival got canceled. But we really just tried to support our wholesalers and retailers because they were the ones feeling all of the impact with being stocked out constantly and having to be at retail at a time where we didn't know how the virus was being spread. It was incredibly scary. And so, all of our beer distributors were out there every day at retail. So we tried to do our best to do whatever we could to make their lives easier in terms of keeping our product in stock and things like that, where they're having issues with other brands. And so that was a big impact for us. And our team really all had solidarity around it. And we just really focused in. And fortunately, the channels that alcohol beverage really all migrated to were convenience stores, grocery stores, which is the primary channels where we sell our products, BeatBox, anyway. And so we actually saw huge growth in sales last year. And so, we didn't have to be so conservative with our ideas about growing the team and things like that. And so we just had those checkpoints along the way, and then ended up, lifting a lot of our budget restrictions and things like that so that we could continue to grow at the clip that we wanted to with the company.
So no real major pivots or changes or anything with your direction at that point. I've heard a couple of them that said, yeah, they actually did. It's like I think actually both the alcohol ones I was talking to recently were saying more of a shift online and online sales kind of a thing versus you're still focusing on the brick and mortar sales kind of a thing more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do have some online sales, but, if you just think about how you buy beverages, usually you don't want to wait 2 weeks for that to arrive, right? And so for us, from a compliance perspective, we can't own shipping directly to folks. We have to go through a third party. And so it would be really hard for us to be able to compete with, the food grocery delivery services and things like that, the GoPuffs of the world that we've been really successful with. They can get deliveries out to people in 30 minutes, 2 hours from retailers. And so that's what we've been focused on. We are relaunching e-commerce, and we have a new partner that's working with us on it that we hope to provide a really great experience to customers, and that may be able to open it up for us as a larger channel. But just as a beverage company right now, it's, retail is where, 99.9% of those sales are. So that's where we remain focused. And, we're, like I said, we're still in only a fraction of the stores, maybe 3 to 5% of all the stores that we can be sold in at retail. And so that's what we're really focused on as a small company.
No, that makes sense. And it's, to me, I think it probably goes back to some of the EOS ideas of having that tight focus to say, okay, this is what we're going on. There's plenty of market space, obviously, right there to get into without trying to be everything to everybody kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we want to get it going just because I know there's a lot of people. We have nearly, over 2,000 people on our store locator every single day trying to find the product. And so, we want to have it online available for folks that just can't find it. And so hopefully we'll be in a store near them very soon.
No, that's interesting because, I'm sitting here looking at the picture behind you. I'm not sure I've seen it before, but I'd be interesting to go try to find it kind of a thing there.
Yeah, we've got a store locator on our website, beatboxbeverages.com, so you can see. And we're in 30 states now and growing all the time.
So what is your longer term picture then? Is that simply looking at the size and scope there, or what's kind of that big picture vision, that pinnacle you're looking towards?
Yeah, so Future Proof Brands is kind of set up to be a house of brands. We want to be the change that we want to see in the alcohol industry. Right now, we're actually in certification process to become a B Corp. And so we're in application for that. And so we are just trying to be the change and grow to create a next generation house of brands for millennials and for Gen Z. And so that means being sustainable, having diverse leadership, those kinds of things. And, BeatBox as a brand right now is #1 in Nielsen for prepared cocktail, single serve wine, and a top 10, flavored malt beverage and seltzer in terms of dollars per point of distribution. And so there's really no reason why our brand can't be sold in, every store out there. And so we just want to be, the next major alcohol beverage company that you see out there, similar to, Anheuser-Busch or Mark Anthony brands or anything else. So that's my big vision for the company, is to be the next millennial Gen Z version of that, or partner with industry partners to kind of change our industry for the better in those ways: brand experience, sustainability, diversity.
Yeah, I was looking through your website earlier before we got on. I picked up on several of the core values, the key items right there that obviously coming back. So I'm assuming your focus there is obviously trying to get all the employee base bought into that same message and try to build on it. You kind of mentioned it earlier. What kind of difference have you seen, assuming that they're on that same page with saying, hey, everybody's pulling in the same direction. Everybody's got this same mission of not just, yeah, we're going to go sell a box of wine kind of a thing here, but like you're saying, participating in the other community events, the other things going on outside of your brand potentially.
Right. Well, I don't think we need a series of crises in the world to show us that there's more to this world than just money, right? So I think the climate crisis is kind of the next big one that all of us need to deal with as a species together. And so I think, just being a workplace where employees can come and they don't have to feel like they have to turn off their souls at the door. They can work somewhere that is trying to make the world a better place in different ways. It's just more motivating than just working somewhere just for money or, just to grow something. And, we're in alcohol, we're a vice industry. We're not trying to say this is a healthy product. We're not trying to say anything like that. We know, the issues with alcohol that are out there. So we're trying to do our best to, kind of be the change that we want to see in this industry, because we know maybe not everybody else that's in our industry is concerned about all of these things as passionately as we are. So we want to kind of create a new standard and push some of the other industry giants into adopting that as well with the B Corp.
Yeah, really like that. I'm trying to think, it's Jim Collins, I believe, is kind of the who first idea of saying, okay, make sure that your team, your people are united around a vision right there, not just necessarily a business vision, but a social vision and stuff like that, to where they really feel like they're contributing there basically, rather than just being there for a paycheck. Because honestly, somebody else offers them a bigger paycheck and they're out the door kind of a thing there. You really want more of that team, that family kind of atmosphere going together. So it sounds like you're well on your way towards building that.
And we ask a lot from our team. We're trying to do something that no one else in the industry is doing, growing at faster rate than anybody else. And so if we can provide, more satisfaction in other areas of their life, that they don't need to go, take time in their weekend to volunteer or do other things that they're passionate about, they can do that as part of their work week or as part of the program at BeatBox, then we can just kind of take the burden off of them and give them, as much time back for their personal life and their family as possible.
No, I like that a lot. That's sounds like a very good culture built right there. So that's definitely takes a lot of effort, but still, I think it'll pay off in the end for sure for it.
For sure. And every industry is just getting more and more competitive for top talent. So, hopefully that's something that will help us stand out as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it will be. It's one of those, we're seeing a lot of these days of just having a hard time finding talent, having a hard time bringing it in. So it's any little bit that you can have there from an advantage is a lot better.
For sure.
So always like kind of wrapping up here towards the end of just saying, hey, if there was something 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it now is now, that if I had just known this, or if we'd just known about this, best practice kind of a something, lessons learned, does anything specific come to mind?
Well, for me, I always kind of harp on, two major things that have helped me throughout my journey. One of them is having that community for your entrepreneurial journey. Being an entrepreneur, every day you have to do something you've never done before. So who do you turn to for questions? Who do you turn to? And, it can't just be 1 or 2 people, because they're going to get pretty tired of your phone calls, pretty quickly. So joining those entrepreneur groups has been a really awesome thing for me. Being aligned with the best top people that are doing things in their own industries is just really inspiring. And so getting aligned with other entrepreneurs and other things like that, I think is my number one tip for folks. And then number 2, for me personally, we have a lot of highs and lows with this business, from Shark Tank to almost going out of business because we didn't know we could fundraise, all these kinds of issues. It actually took me a lot of time and therapy and reading books and things like that to separate my own sort of emotional identity and health from the business, health. So that was something that I worked on a lot. I read a book called Mindsight by Dan Siegel that was really interesting to me, because I like to nerd out about all things science. And so to me, it kind of explained a lot of the therapy techniques and the different things that people do, and actually how it works in the brain biologically. So that really helped me understand and get it. And so that helped me learn things about meditation, get involved in things like that so that I can kind of separate, you know, the emotions of what's going on with the business with my own reactions and my own processing of that. So that's the other thing I like to talk about is just getting support for mental health. I always say if you're going to be a pro athlete, you would have a coach, right, helping you and a trainer helping you and all these kinds of things. So all of us as entrepreneurs and other people that have really stressful jobs where we put a lot on our brains, it's like, why wouldn't you want a special coach for that or somebody to help you really maximize it? So always advocate for therapy and groups around that as well.
Yeah, no, definitely good because it's one of those, obviously you almost don't know it until you've been in the entrepreneur kind of world, but yeah, it can be a lot of pressure, especially being at the top that, okay, now there's 20 other people depending upon me being able to move this forward kind of a thing. But to me, that's almost one of the benefits of the system that you're talking about is saying, okay, the more you can systematize the business. I actually had another guest on that I love the quote, but basically it was the point which you stop treating the business like a hot dog stand and try treating it more like a restaurant was when it really took off and grew. Because how many business owners do you see that you can't even take a vacation without taking the laptop and the cell phone, et cetera, with you kind of a thing there? It's like, you've got to be able to separate yourself from the business. Yeah. If nothing else, then one day being able to sell it or being able to exit it profitably kind of a thing. If it's all you, then you're never gonna be able to get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have that big vision for your company, you know, building those systems and processes, and, you know, we always joke, like, if anyone gets hit by a bus, we still want the rest of the team to be successful and go on. So how do we set up the whole company to be, you know, resilient in that nature? So.
Yeah. And that's, to me, that's the biggest key on being able to actually even grow it. Because you made the comment earlier, it's like, okay, this is the point where you could kind of step out of the trenches and be more strategic in your role there. And if you didn't have processes, didn't have systems, that'd be a whole lot more difficult for sure.
Right. It's just like when you're working with top talent and they're having problems, it's like you want to do everything you can to get it out of their way and solve it for them. And so that's where I'm, you know, finding myself now is just how can I be that strategic leader, as well as, of course, you know, working with our investors and everything else as well. So
sounds like a lot of fun. So if people are looking,
a lot more fun when music festivals come back. Yeah.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So one step at a time. But so if people want to learn more or find BeatBox, where's the best place to come looking for you?
Yeah, beatboxbeverages.com. We also are all over, you know, social, wherever you consume your favorite content, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or wherever you are. Look for us there as well. And yeah, please follow us. Hopefully we will be in a store near you very soon if we're not now.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll get the links right here below. But I appreciate the time, appreciate the insights. That was fun.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Building to Scale podcast. If you would like to share your entrepreneurial business growth story, please visit buildingtoscale.com/guest. If you got something out of this interview, would you do both us and our guest a favor and share it on your social media accounts? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your player so that you don't miss any future episodes, and make sure to reach out to Jeff Chastain on any of the major social media networks, or check us out at admentis.com.